And coming up this week, because a criminal I never met stole a car, I had to change my trip. The first time in my career, I land in almost zero visibility. Yeah, there's a runway down there. And I get to enjoy a fabulous day in Paris. All right, let's get started.
Because some criminal stole a car in West Palm Beach, Florida, and wants to go to trial, I have to go to Paris today versus going to Narita tomorrow. Hi, my name is Darren. I'm a dad. I'm an airline pilot. I'm a husband. I'm a scientist. It is Saturday, March 7th at 2:45 p.m. And yeah, I'm headed to Paris today. I wanted to go to Narita tomorrow. But my wife, the scientist, she does DNA for the West Palm Sheriff's Department in West Palm Beach, Florida. And this idiot criminal wants to go have his day in court, even though his DNA evidence is all over the steering wheel. It's his right. But she now has to make arrangements to travel to Florida on Monday when I was supposed to be in Narita on Monday. We had no family in town, therefore I have to move my schedule around because I'm the easiest one to move around, right? You'd waste the taxpayer money. She used to be able to testify via computer screen and a video camera, and then some criminal said, "Hey, I have the right to face my accuser. She's not in the courtroom. Mistrial." Seriously. So now the state of Florida, West Palm Beach, pays for my wife to buy a last minute ticket on my airline. So it helps my airline quite a bit. She has to buy real tickets, of course, and then last minute hotels and transportation to go testify in court. So it is what it is. When this month began, I had the most ideal schedule. No, I didn't. I did. My mid month had all Maui's. I was able to trade out of those, and I had a Madrid, Narita, London, and Paris. And I had a Santiago trip that carried over into this month. Half of that trip. I had like 96 hours worth of credit, 96 hours and 9 minutes worth of credit. The most I could do for my union contract and everything else was 96 hours and 35 minutes. Sorry, I had 9609 credit. The most I could do was 9635. So I was right at the limit, right? It was perfect. And now it's all blown up. So it is what it is. But yeah, headed to Paris, and my phone's been blowing up. My captain has been texting me. He is stuck in El Paso. He commutes, and there's been some weather today in Dallas. Ground stop. He can't get in here. So sign-in time is in 45 minutes. I'm betting we're not going to go on time. We'll see. It says crew scheduling is aware. They just departed El Paso. ETA is 4:15. See you at the jet. All right. So me and the FB will have to get everything ready to go. So if he lands at 4:15, we might leave a few minutes late. Again, it is what it is. But I've been to Paris before. This will be my third trip to Paris as a pilot, anyway. My first trip was during the Olympics. During the Olympics, I guess almost 2 years ago. We stayed by the airport, went to Disneyland. My second trip, we stayed at the normal hotel. I was walking around Paris. This will be my third trip. It's fine. I've been to Paris before as a passenger and explored. It's an okay city. I like it more than London. I'll say that much. But yeah, I'm going to be the FO for the trip. It'll be my second flying trip of the month. Both FO and FB relief power open today. So I could have picked between either one. I'm like, I picked FO. Why not get a landing in? I go to training next month anyway. So follow along if you want to. Let's go to Paris. Well, let's go to the airport, get the jet ready. Sans captain, he'll be boarding at the last second, and then head to Paris. All right.
So, if you're a young person and are thinking about serving in the military, here's a perk you can enjoy that I cannot enjoy. So, I do get free employee parking from my airline, right? But if you are in the military and when you leave the military, you're able to get special plates from the state of Texas. It's a metal plate, I believe, like MEDAL. And if you get one of those plates, you can park for free in the terminal and never have to endure the indignities that is the employee parking lot and the employee bus of DFW Airport. One perk that you earn by serving our country. But for me, I never joined the military. My dad was in the Marines, but he never pushed me toward military service. One of the biggest determinations of how quick I get to the airport is how fast the bus comes. They might come in 2 minutes, they might come in 10 minutes. It's a pure waiting game. For me, on the 777, again, all my flights almost always leave from Terminal D, so I only have one option really. It's a D South bus from where I come in from. When I flew the Airbus, I could go to Terminal E if I was going to, the C gates or A gates, but for 777, it's almost always the D South bus. I was able to clear KCM and head down to the crew room to get the magic folder and the paperwork. I call it a magic folder. It's just a folder we put paperwork in. Head over to the gate. I did tell the gate agent that the captain is in the air and should be here right before boarding finishes. Still be leaving right on time. Head down the jet bridge, got on the airplane. I was the first to arrive on this time and began setting up the flight deck. Again, it's a 777-200, the most common model at my airline for the 777 and the one I have the most hours in by far. For the most part, the 777-300 only flies to London from my base. It does now fly to Haneda, but I haven't had one of those trips yet. So for me, it's almost always a 777-200. Me and the FB work together, sitting at the flight deck, getting everything ready. So when the captain arrives, he's had to sit down, get familiar, make the PA, run the checklist, and we were gone. And as far as the flight over to Paris, fairly standard from Terminal D. There is some construction of the new Terminal F going on, so we have a kind of a modified route. You can see all the planes turning down there. So we go Golf 10, Foxtrot, Alpha, over the Alpha Bridge to runway 35 left, and launched from there. Now, the captain did happen to pick this leg, and as flying pilot, you pick your brake. Do you want second brake or third brake? He chose the third brake, which is fine to me. Again, it's up to you if you want to have the, fly a little bit, brake, and then fly a little bit, and be up front for landing preparation, or just be in the back the whole time and then come up front right before we start descending. And that was his choice. So I took the second break. So I went on break just as we entered Canada, right before we went on the tracks. And then he came up, I went back up front, sorry, right around 30 West. And so I was up front with the relief pilot to have the landing preparation where we started preparing for in Autoland. Yeah, good thing the captain flew over, because even if I flew over there, it'd be his landing, because first officers cannot do an auto land. It's a captain only approach. And it was pretty straightforward, but it was the first time for me doing an auto land in real conditions, and the same first also for the captain. So first, let's talk about this arrival. So we were doing the BBAX 9 Echo arrival into Paris. You see the BBAX 9 Delta to the left. That just goes more of, I guess, delayed vectors. But it's a pretty simple arrival. We do start at, of course, BBAX, and there are some crossing restrictions there. So BBAX has the FL240 with the line above it, meaning cross it below flight level 240, and at max speed of 280 knots on the 9 Echo arrival, 250 on the 9 Delta arrival. From there, we go down to Koliv, max speed 250 between flight level 110 and flight level 100. Those are our flight levels. They have a lower transition altitude in Paris. Then we go to Mopar, max speed 250 again, and between flight level 100 and flight level 080. So with the arrival information to the airport, the ATIS, it tells us what the transition level is for that particular day. I think on this day it's around 7,000 feet, or flight level 70 was the transition level going between standard altimeter of 2992 and the actual local altimeter. In the United States, it's always 18,000 feet, in the contiguous United States anyway. Elsewhere around the world, it's wherever they use for local customs. Now, from that, we aren't quite done with the arrival. Last arrival ended at Mopar. So you see Mopar right there, same crossing restrictions. We go to PG 527. And then from there, we just fly track 155. That's it. And they'll give us radar vectors to the approach. Now we're doing the ILS 8 right approach into Paris today. And you can see it toward the bottom of all the different straight in landing and the restrictions, so to speak. Normally we do a Cat 1 landing. Well, for Cat 1 landing, we put a barrow of 537 setting on my PFD, and we go down to 200 feet above the ground, and we have to see certain elements. Now, if we can't see those elements, we must execute a go around. That is the most common approach I do with the airlines. But we can also do a Cat 2 approach. Now we'd be setting a radar altimeter. So we're going 103 feet above the ground via a radar altimeter. So that's actual a beam shooting down to the ground and bouncing up to the plane to measure how high we are. It's more accurate than the altimeter setting it would be. But today, we're doing a Cat 3 approach. There are no requirements for a Cat 3 approach. Only thing we have to have is RVR of 75 meters, meaning we have to be able to see 75 meters down the runway. That's it. That's not a whole lot of visibility. That's about 250 feet for us Americans. Now, on the actual weather, I have a little screenshot right there. It was reporting 150 meters. This was well after we landed. At the time we landed, it was closer to 100 meters on runway 8 right. It's about 330 feet. So, not a whole lot of visibility. Now, for runway 8 right, it is 8,858 feet long, and all of it is usable for landing. You can see the approach lighting system as there, but we don't really care because we're not going to be able to see anything. We're not expecting to see anything at all for this approach. Now, we are going to have to brief how we're going to get off the runway and to the gate. So we can see the high speed exits, the Victor 5, Victor 6, Victor 7, and Victor 9. We will see corresponding yellow leadoff lines off the runway. So when we come in, when we touch the ground and we're going down the runway, my eyes are going to be inside. But eventually, well, I will look up outside and have to figure out where we are. The captain's eyes will be outside the entire time. But we're not going to turn off the runway until we see a leadoff line. The autopilot will be on the entire time until we turn it off to then exit the runway. We're planning on exiting Vector 6, maybe Vector 7. At the very end of the runway, it will be Vector 9. And then we're going to be very cautious leaving that runway and on the center line of the yellow line to then cross 8 left and eventually get to the gate. Now, airports do have ground radar so they can see where we are, but we have to use our eyes outside for the most part to figure out where we are on the airport surface. Our iPads do have GPS, but they're not always updating and they're not always accurate, especially on the 777. Half the time, the GPS and the iPads, it doesn't pick up the signal. So it is what it is. So to discuss the approach, now let's make sure we can actually stop on the actual runway surface. Remember, it's about 8,800 feet long. So there's the airport. I'll be using both rush reversers, or the captain will anyway. Landing on runway 8 right. We're going to use full flaps, flaps 30. The runway is dry. There's no need for anti-ice. It's warm enough. We'll use auto brakes 3. We can use more if we need to. And then I needed my landing weight. So for that, I go back over to the init ref page. It's 427. We're gonna burn some gas between now and then. So it's a not a wild guess, but 426,000 pounds. That's pretty conservative. And we're gonna add 5 knots as a standard amount to add to our VREF speed. Calculate. We need 7670. So that is all the way to a complete stop if we don't do anything. That's plenty of distance, right? Now, my outside air temperature is incorrect on the screen. I'm going to fix it, but you're going to see it's not going to change anything. So looking at the outside temperature, it's 15 degrees, and calculate again, 7910. So it's a little bit longer, but still less than the 8858. So not a big deal. This will be taking over landing at some point and using the brakes, manual braking. So this for your situation awareness, we're now going to IG-08 right, and we're descending through 6,000 feet, our flight level 60, headed toward one of the initial approach fixes for the runway. I'm at 220 knots, and I have not put out any flaps yet, so I still have a clean airplane. So looking at my PFD, you'll see up. UP, that is the slowest I can go as a clean airplane with flaps up. When I put flaps out, you'll see it right here in the black area. I'm going to try to keep the same point of view. So I'm putting up flaps 1 now. I'm not going to try to change the screen too much. But now once the flaps 1 come out and it goes green on the center screen, now you see a 1, and that's the slowest I can go with flaps 1. That is the logic of the 777. You shouldn't ever go and move or even move the speed bug below whatever speed is showing that little notch there on the PFD for the speed. Now, we've already briefed the approach. I showed you the approach in the real airplane. We've already briefed the approach. And one thing as airline pilots, and once you get instrument rated and you are proficient, you brief the approach off the plate and then you put the plate away. If you have the plate to the side, it could be a distraction, especially when you're first starting out flying. Experienced pilot, we brief it, and then everything we need is on the screens or on the FMS. It's easier to look on the airplane than it is to look to the side to the iPad. I'm going to range down to the slowest range, so I can see the approach clearly on my ND, which is my navigational display. And soon I'm going to arm the approach. Now, again, on my PFD, you'll see speed, LNAV, and VNAV path. And those are active. If anything is armed, it's in white letters below it. Right now, nothing is armed. And on every approach and every descent, it's all about energy management and knowing what speed you're at now and where you want to be and how you're going to get there. So it's all being very smooth as possible. Now I'm going to go ahead and arm the approach. Now you see LOC and glide slope are armed but not active. And there's going to be a little cynicism here in a second. It's a grab the glide slope way too early. 5,000 feet is the glide slope intercept. See how I grab the glide slope and starts descending? I'm like, no, it's a false glide slope. The actual glide slope is still above me. The plane is descending to nowhere. So I'm going to intervene, press the hold button real quick, and like, all right, I have 5,000 still set. I need to fix this. I'm getting altitude alert because I'm below it. So I'm going to go ahead and just do vertical speed and get back up to my altitude. Because the real plane could do this. I'm not quite sure why it did in this situation because the glide slope, again, the diamond was well above me at that point. And on the plate, 5,000 feet is the glide slope intercept altitude. So get back up to my altitude. There we are, back at 5,000. Localizer is still armed, but not active. LNAV is still active. So I'm going to leave it as is until I get the localizer, and then I'll go ahead and rearm the approach, and that will arm the glide slope as well. So almost to IG-08 right, and it now starts turning, and there's localizer that's captured. So now I feel comfortable. Once again, there's the glide slope right there. I'm going to go ahead and hit approach mode again. Now glide slope is still armed in white letters. It hasn't activated yet. I'm still at alt, meaning I'm stuck here at 5,000 feet. Turn to final. And this is the only part where the heading bug will center itself on the Boeing 777. The heading bug and I have a love-hate relationship. The whole flight, I have to keep centering the heading bug until the localizer. Anyways, here comes the glide slope. And once it captures, it'll go from armed in white letters to active in green letters on my PFD. Again, it's all about, from here on out, it's all energy management. They typically want us to do about 160 knots till about a 4-mile final. It's very manageable in the 777. That's a nothing burger, I call it. All right, and go ahead and send both altimeters to the local 1013, and there's glide slope has been captured. And there is the other altimeter. Sorry for the moving of the screen. At this point, I could also set my missed approach altitude, which I don't need to do because it is 5,000 feet. So super, super simple. Now I'm moving my speed bug down to the 1 bug. Even though I can go down to the 5 bug, I'm going down to the 1 bug for now and just letting the plane bleed off speed if it can. Sometimes I do have to intervene and add some speed brakes. When I do, you'll see the trend vector of my airspeed indicator move pretty quickly. Right now, it's just easing on down. I'm at flaps 5. Flaps 5 does introduce some drag. Flaps 1 is mostly just lift. Everything looks good, and I keep scanning all my instruments, my PFD, making sure that the glide slope and localizer are both centered up, and we're descending at a normal rate. Everything makes sense to me. Because in reality, the captain's flying the approach, but I am staring at the instruments the entire time. As a first officer on an Autoland, my world is the PFD. That's all I look at. I don't look outside at all. Not until I hear the captain say, okay, autopilot's coming off, turn autopilot off, and then I'll look up. But for the entire approach, my eyes are inside. The captain's eyes are outside on the approach so they can pick up the runway environment so they can figure out where they are on the surface. But I'm narrating it as though I'm flying it because that's easier for me to do. I'm at 180 knots, selected right now, still at flaps 5. And we're about 7.7 miles from the runway. You can see that again, the DME on top of the PFD in white letters. And at least in Paris and most parts of Europe, that DME is to the end of the runway. In the United States, that DME can be anywhere on the airport surface. It's typically not the end of the runway because we are Americans and we do stuff differently. You can see the radar altimeter on the lower section of the PFD. And we're going to have 180 knots and it's slowing down with natural drag. There go the gear. The gear are rubber spoilers and flaps 15. Gear are giant pieces of drag. Flaps 15, 180 knots. Life is good. I need to be complete with everything by 1,000 feet above landing field elevation. My speed brakes are now armed and slowing down more. And the gear are great for slowing down. I will not need the speed brakes anymore for the rest of the flight. I can just do normal deceleration with drag. There is land 3 on top of the PFD. Land 3 means the plane is capable of a Cat 3 landing.
I'll discuss more about this later, but that means we can do a Cat 3. The systems have all checked out for a Cat 3 landing. We said land 2, we're going to do a Cat 2 landing. Setting my final approach speed, 138 knots. That's 5 knots over ref speed. Flaps 30 coming out. And just double checking my speed down there. It is indeed, ref is 133, approach is 138. But now, as a FO, first officer, my eyes are just in here. I'm just scanning this around and around. And I'm looking at, again, the localizer right there. And I'm looking at the glide slope over there. And I'm looking at the airspeed, land 3, and making sure that I see rollout and flare are now armed. Those are important. If I don't see rollout and flare, something's not right. If I see anything go red on my screen, I just say go around. I don't say what the captain, I don't say what the issue is. I just say go around. If land 3 goes away, I say go around. If anything goes amiss on my PFD, I just say the words go around. My eyes are only inside. The captain's eyes are only outside. That way they can get an idea of the runway environment as quickly as possible once we're on the ground. Because again, we have to figure out how we're going to exit the runway. Right now, we're just 100 feet over the ground, and you can peek up there. You won't be able to see anything. I have the RVR right at 90 right now. You can barely see the runway surface, and that's how it looks in real life. And now we are down on the runway. The captain is adding thrust reverse. The autopilot is still flying the plane. You can see rollout now. The plane is centering itself on the center line automatically with the localizer beam. Going to 80 knots, and now 60 knots, storing the thrust reversers, and now we have to figure out where are we on the runway surface. They have clicked off the auto brakes, they've tapped the brakes, and now we're slowing down manually and looking outside for some kind of yellow. Sorry for the movement right there. You see one leadoff line right there. Barely see the yellow leadoff line. Again, this is about how it looked in real life. And turning off the runway, and then we got to figure out how to get to the gate. Again, airports do have surface radar, so they can see where we are. It's up to us to figure out where we are as we move along. But the tower can see, the ground control can see on the radar screen where we are on the runway surface.
And again, here's the view from the airplane looking out. Like, you can't see very much at all. It's really, really foggy. It was better visibility here at the terminal than it was near the runway. Like, looking out, you can barely see a taxiway out there. And in this view, there is a plane going from left to right. You can barely see it. It's really, really foggy. Clearing customs and immigration is very quick in Paris, thankfully. Like Tokyo, Narita, and I think Haneda, they have some striking red carpet. Kind of funky terminals here. Kind of round, like spaceships from the outside of the terminal. But a little bit of walking to clear immigrations, and then customs, and go out the door onto the bus. And it's a little bit, again, it's a little bit of a walk, but I've been here before and I kind of remembered, but I always follow flight attendants because it's always the safest thing to do. Again, one perk of wide body is we almost always get a nice big bus taking us to the hotel. Every now and then it's a small bus, but there are typically big buses you can step into. Nice big seats. I go to the back because that's where pilots sit. Why? Because I don't know. We all sit in the back like a bunch of heathens. Decent drive to downtown Paris to the hotel, and now for a quick hotel tour. Functional room. Not big, not small, but nice enough. Coffee maker. Nice chair. Hi. This area for something. Glass bottle, got a safe. I don't like that. I prefer a normal shower, but it is what it is. All right. It is 10:25 local time, 4:25 a.m. in Dallas. Ready to go to bed. Good flight overall. The Autoland here was interesting. After we did the approach, it's a bit disorientating as a first officer because I'm only looking inside. I'm not supposed to look outside at all until I hear the captain say, okay, autopilot's off, and he's taking over, which is after we land and slow down on the runway. So, because I'm inside making sure that, because the autopilot is steering even on the ground, right? So I'm inside the entire time. We're on the ground.
I'm making my call outs, and I say 80 knots. That's when he starts throwing his thrust reversers, and he says, "Okay, autopilot's off." I look up, and I had no idea where we were on the runway, because normally I can get an idea of what high-speed exit we passed, and I saw a high-speed exit, and then I saw the white and red lights ahead of us, so I knew we were in the last third of the runway, 3,000 feet. I'm like, okay. And I thought we were at, I think, Yankee 7, anyway, I was off by one taxiway. The the relief pilot, looking outside the whole time, watching everything, he knew exactly where we were, thankfully, so that helped quite a bit. But yeah, it was like we could not, when we cleared the runway, we could not see the runway next to us. We couldn't even see the whole short line for Cat 3 when we cleared the runway. It was very low visibility. And then I thought getting into the ramp was kind of stupid, how we had to go into Tango Alpha 3, I guess it was, and then go around the ramp that way versus going around the corner and going into the gate, but not my rules. Clearing immigration here is super easy. I faintly remember how to get to the bus, though I was following a flight attendant talking about cars the whole time. He has an Audi A6 e-tron that he currently hates, but he's an EV guy too, so it's kind of fun talking to him about EVs. He knows a lot about EVs. That was fun talking to him on the way to the bus. But now in the hotel, and yeah, I'm gonna go to bed now. Probably for a good 2 hours, and then get some lunch. This room is incredibly warm. Why is my watch making noise on open trip on the 15th? What's today? Oh, I don't want to do that. That's after. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it is 48 degrees outside here, so they have the heater on in the room. It was like 76 degrees. Freaking hot. So I'm cooling it down now. Take a while to cool down, but I'm going to go to bed and then get some lunch and explore the city.
So after my nap, I went out to get food. It was a nice day in Paris now. The clouds had all burned off. I just wanted food. I'm not a big foodie. Every time I seek something out, this day I wanted food. So I got this little spicy chicken pita, fries, and a Coke Zero. It hit the spot. It did the job. As you can see, it's about 1:30 in the afternoon. Had my lunch and then went out for a walk to explore Paris. So I had a decent lunch. Nothing amazing, as you saw. But currently out by the Eiffel Tower. And I called my wife on FaceTime, and I was talking to her, kept checking in. It's 8 a.m. in Dallas. And I saw these youth walk by, and they're all holding pieces of paper and had a pen. And I instantly realized what they were doing. Some scams never go away. When we were here like 10 years ago, my wife, my kid, my oldest, and my mother-in-law, we walked around the Eiffel Tower, and people were approached to us and say, "Hey, will you support some charity?" I think it was blind or deaf people, whatever it is. And we're like, "Okay, we support, but we don't have any money." No, just put down how much you think you would like to support. You don't have to give us anything. We're like, that's weird. So I just signed my name. I find like a fake name or maybe my own name and put down like $10. And then they demanded money from us. And we're like, "We're not giving you any money." And I just put a line through that piece of paper. They're still doing the same scam today. I can't imagine people fall for scams all the time. But if you're ever in Paris and someone asks you to sign something for a charity, just say no. Especially if it looks a little sketchy. It was a copy of a copy of a copy of a piece of paper. Very sketchy. One of you guys recommended me go to a chocolate shop, and it was all Chet Blue, I think. I looked it up, and they're closed on Sundays. So I appreciate the recommendation, but they're closed on Sundays. If I get here on another day, I will go to it. It's about 1.5 miles from where I am now. But for now, I'm just going to get my steps in and walk around. I've been to Paris. I came here for a week, so I've seen all the tourist sites. So I don't really need to see them again. So I'm just going to explore, find some kind of lactose-free dessert, and then head back to the room and relax. I did not sleep very well. After I got to the hotel, I had a very hot room. I guess it's still set up for winter, so the whole hotel's on heat. So I left my window open so it cools down while I'm gone. So for now, I'm just going to go walk around and explore and try to find some non-dairy, non-chocolate dessert because I don't care for chocolate. All right. Paris does have a metro system, but for whatever reason, it's not as useful as it is in London or Madrid. Most of the times, wherever I was going to, the metro option was a longer total time than the walking option. So I walked. And this way, I got to see a lot of cars. I do like they have street parking and street charging on the streets of Paris for electric cars. Like it's an old city, but they're able to adapt to modern vehicles and have charging everywhere. And they had so many more brands of EVs than we have in the United States. And again, I think the street parking and street charging is a fabulous idea. It's not fast charging, but if you're going somewhere for an hour or two, you can easily get 30, 40 miles of charge in 2 hours of charging. It's not free, you pay for it, but it's convenient. On this particular walk, I was walking to the Statue of Liberty. I heard, and this is sarcasm for those of you who don't understand sarcasm, they have a miniature version of the big version that we have in the United States. Like, wow, they copied our Statue of Liberty and miniaturized it. How American of them. Again, it's a beautiful park. Nice day in Paris. I never seen the Statue of Liberty before in Paris, so walked over to it, appreciated it, took a break, looked at my map, figured out where I want to go, and again, I wanted a grocery store, and it's not always easy to find a good grocery store in other countries because I'm not from that country. But I set out on foot to find one. I did stop by a chocolate store because my wife loves chocolate. She likes milk chocolate, just milk chocolate, not dark chocolate, nothing fancy, just milk chocolate. So I went to my this grocery store. Didn't find anything that I think she would like. They had a lot of fancy stuff, with fillings and yada yada yada. But I did come up on a extremely nice grocery store. It was more of a department store. It was extremely fancy. Um, More expensive than I would normally shop at for me, but it had lots of options inside. Again, they had all kind of departments with various meats and cheeses and yogurts and fruits and vegetables and clothing and housewares. Like it was like a Walmart of Paris, but like I guess maybe more like Target anyway. But I was able to find some snacks for me. Again, I want some fruit for breakfast, orange juice. I always have orange juice, and then of course some chocolate for the wife and kids. Also on here for quite a bit exploring before finally saying, all right, enough is enough, and heading back to the hotel. Back to the hotel, had my dinner and went to bed and woke up the next day. And now for the before leaving the hotel discussion.
All right, good morning. It is in the 8 o'clock hour here, the 2 o'clock hour in DFW, and I feel decent. One of the best air conditioner in this room, so I opened the window to sleep last night, and I slept decently. I did go to bed early, went to bed around 9. Well, in bed around 8, probably fell asleep around 9. I liked my sleep. Woke up, of course, around 1 in the morning, tossed and turned until about 2 in the morning, then back to bed again till about 6:30-ish. Then I got to bed for sure around 7. So I had plenty of sleep anyway. Paris is my favorite city to have an overnight in. I think I came here for vacation with my family. We went around for a whole week, so I saw all the tourist stuff. My wife's a pretty good tour guide, so just saw the Statue of Liberty yesterday and did about 6 miles of walking, and that's it. Didn't care for the public transportation system here. It's not as extensive as in other cities, for better or for worse. I don't mind walking, but I would look at where I want to go, and I'm like, I could take public transit, but it's like 28 minutes for public transit or 40 minutes to walk. It's 12-minute difference. I'll just walk it, so it's fine. For breakfast, well, I did buy my family some way overpriced candy and stuff at that grocery store. I bought my youngest some candy jewelry. It's mostly just bracelets and some lollipops. I bought my wife, because she's simple, milk chocolate. They had so many different chocolate bars there. And bought my oldest just some chocolate cookies. And then for breakfast today, I had blueberries, which I'll finish on the airplane. My standard orange juice. And then some basic pastries I bought yesterday. So mostly blueberries and orange juice. That's my go-to. But I'm going to finish packing up the room. Our inbound airplane should be on the ground here in the next 25 minutes or so. So should be ready for us to walk on board once we get there. Decent drive from the city center, of course, out to the airport. So, all right. Oh, also, my trip trading. So I have no trips after this rest of the month. I had like a London later on in the month. I dropped it. I was trying to pick up a 4-person Barcelona on Wednesday, too junior to get it. Somebody who's way senior to me, like 6,000 ever senior to me, got it. There are 2 4-man Londons open. I'm debating if I should just take some days off and then I'm taking a whole week of spring break off, right? When I go back from spring break, I'll have 10 days to pick up my remaining 40 hours I want anyway. It shouldn't be too hard. It's just 2 trips, really. As long as something's open, though. I'll do run the risk. So I'm not sure if I'm going to pick up a trip on Wednesday to come back Friday, to leave again on Friday to go hopefully to Australia with my family, or just take the week off and then pick it up later on. We will see. I did balance my low seniority with my goal of my hours. So, all right.
And I headed back to the very back of the bus, like I always do. The pilot's just riding the back of the bus. Why? I don't know. But it's just tradition that we were all riding the back of the bus. Put my seatbelt on and enjoyed the nice long ride to the airport. I will say, getting into the airport, they do have a nice crew entrance for us. So that's kind of nice. And then clearing immigration is fairly straightforward. Security is just okay. Because I would be the flying pilot, and I'm taking the second break as my option. I did stop and get some coffee. I was looking at some breakfast too. I was like, so I did grab a ham and cheese croissant as well. Beautiful, much nicer day in Paris. Unlimited visibility on this one. Beautiful walk down the jet bridge, onto the airplane, down the other aisle because they were giving a briefing on the first aisle, into my seat and preparing to leave. Now, leaving Paris can be its own frustration. Many parts of Europe, but Paris is specifically, they have all these various times and they're all set up so that you go from the gate to the runway and never stop moving. So even if everything is a beautiful day and you're on time, they'll still delay you because they don't want you idling on a taxiway. It's frustration. It is what it is. It's their country. It's their airspace. Whatever. So these signs around the airplane will tell me lots of information. Right now, it is 9:56 a.m. local time. We leave at 11:05 local time. It's going to change, get more information here soon. But you can see how the terminal looks from the outside. That little, spaceship looking thing. There's no windows on it. Inside is it's round with red carpet. It's very futuristic. Anyways, it's a beautiful day outside. I'm looking at it and said, wow, it's so sunny. It's so awesome. We still need fuel. We need a lot of fuel. We only have 41,000 pounds of fuel on board. We have a long, long way to go, as we need closer to 200,000 pounds to make it back to DFNW. Now, eventually those signs on the front of the airplane, they changed. And they said the SOBT and the TSAT. That's in Zulu time. So the scheduled off-block time was 5 minutes past the hour. That was good. Our startup time was 8 minutes past the hour. That was also good. So on this day, everything lined up. But I've seen some days where those numbers are so far apart. I've seen SOBTs, like scheduled off-block time, for 10 to 20 minutes past our scheduled departure time. And then a TSAT, the startup time, being 20 minutes after that. So what's the point of pushing back off the gate and then waiting 20 minutes to start the engines? Again, it is what it is. It can be very frustrating waiting to get off the gate on a beautiful day. But thankfully on this day, it all worked out and we left on time. So in DFW and at most airports around the United States, when I'm ready to leave the gate, I call ramp, call ground, say, hey, ready to push back a gate, whatever. And when it's clear, we push back. In Paris, that's not how it works. So 15 minutes before my TOBT, my target off block time, I call clearance delivery to get our regular clearance. And then at that point, also a startup approval time. Now, when I call them, they'll give me my clearance. They'll also either say, okay, at your TOBT, contact the apron for pushback, or they will give me my clearance with a runway in my SID, and then give me a TSAT time, the target startup approval time, which is the time I should expect to call back the clearance delivery to then get approval, to then call apron, to then push back from the gate, and then start our engines. It's very coordinated, very precise, and can be a little frustrating. But again, different country, different rules. I give much respect to my pushback crews and my ramp crews. This is an automated push I have on my little X-plane. I tried pushing back, driving that little truck. You can do it. I can't do it very well. It is herky-jerky, and I don't ever put it back where it's supposed to be. That was 5 times normal speed. Now we're back to normal speed. During the pushback, we normally start both engines. They've already been started. I do have the flaps down right now. Normally it's not done until we're actually clear of all personnel near the airplane, but they've already been put down because It's not my first time going through this scenario here, but we sit here with the parking brake set until we can visually see all the personnel have left the area and we get a salute from our ground personnel. We can't see anything right in front of the airplane. On the 777-300, we have cameras down below. On the 200, we do not. So the little button I just pressed was giving the salute and telling the person over the interphone that they are cleared to disconnect. There's also standard verbiage we use all around the world to make sure we're all on the same piece of paper. And we don't run any checklists. We do nothing at all until we visually see the tug cart move away, and then we see the guide person give us a salute. And on my flight sim in X-Plane 12, there's a recent update where there's an actual guide person that is going to stand over there and give us a salute. They show us the pin they put in to disable our nose wheel steering. He's right over there. There he is, similar to real life. The captain would flash the lights to let him know, the guide person know that we see them and they can leave. So flash the lights twice, all the wing light for that right hand side, and they will get the signal and they will go away. From this point, we'd run the after start checklist to make sure that's all been accomplished. Then I call ground and say, ground, flight, blah, 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 our location on the airport with the ATIS, and then they give us taxi instructions. Now, we would love to leave from runway 8 left. That's the closest runway. Unfortunately, we got runway 9 right. It's a bit of a taxi away, which is fine. Paid by the minute, but it is a longer process. Now, when you buy a ticket, you have, the flight time you have includes the anticipated ground taxi time out and the anticipated ground taxi time in. Airlines have tons of data. They know for each day the average amount of time a flight takes a taxi from the gate to the runway and then from the runway to the gate. And sometimes if you look at the same flight on different days of the week, they'll have different departure and arrival times just by a few minutes because the airlines know on certain days it takes longer than other days. Now, taxi around Paris, it is pretty easy. They do have some unique terminology though. So as we taxi down the Foxtrot taxiway, we are cleared to taxi to middle 2 and then contact the north ground. And middle 2 is a different terminology that I'm used to. But on the airport diagram, there is indeed a line called middle 2. You'll see it on the right-hand side of the plane as well. There's a red sign up there that does indeed say middle 2. And you don't have to, I always call before I get to it. So once I'm a little bit ahead of it, if they don't tell me otherwise, once I can see the sign clear with my own eyes, I'll call the other ground and say flight blah, 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 on Foxtrot approaching middle 2. And then they give us further taxi instructions to get to runway 9 right. Now, during these long taxis, this is where I, as a first officer, would be briefing the captain with our final closeout numbers. We don't know how much we actually weigh until we are away from the gate and the gate agent puts in the final passenger counts because some people don't show up. So we have maybe fewer passengers, or maybe we have more people on board because we have standby passengers, employees doing non-rev. Additionally, cargo. We might be booked for X amount of cargo, but maybe some truck got stuck on the highway, so it didn't get loaded. Or maybe we have extra cargo on board from last-minute cargo, last-minute bags. When I get this little load sheet, I use that load sheet and I compare it to what the dispatcher had planned for our performance. So I look at, we have a planned weight, and then just for contingency purposes, we have an assumed weight. So the dispatcher has an idea how much we should weigh, but they'll go ahead and put in an assumed weight a few thousand pounds higher. That accounts for last-minute bags, last-minute adjustments in passengers, and that kind of thing. It's a few thousand pounds higher. So I look at the weight and say, you know what? We are above our plan, below assumed, so we're okay. Look at the latest weather and say, okay, we have a headwind. And then I look at the outside temperature. We rarely ever take off with a full power takeoff. We want to have an assumed temperature. Today, we have an assumed temperature of 40 degrees Celsius. As long as the outside temperature is below 40, we are okay. So I say weight, winds, temps are good. We're good for a TL1 takeoff off runway 09 right at flaps 5 with assumed temperature of 40 degrees. And we're looking for 1.290 on the EPR. Again, EPR is what we use on this particular engine type. We do not use N1. And on this performance sheet from the dispatcher, it does have the assumed temperature and what EPR, exhaust pressure ratio, I should be looking for on the gauges. Once all that's good and done, the captain will ask for the before takeoff checklist to be performed. We went through the before takeoff checklist. Again, I only do it on nice long straightaways, never on a turn, and never when there's anything around the airplane that's gonna be moving, like another plane or this big truck right here. Uh, Once that's done, I judge how far away from the runway, and then I give the PA to the flight attendants, and I have to give them a set amount of time before takeoff to make sure they can do their final duties in the cabin and get safely seated and buckled in for takeoff. Now, just going further down the taxiway because it's a long taxi line ride. One thing I never talked about before is on the ground we have what's called a sterile flight deck. We don't talk about pertinent information, so we don't have any small talk, any extraneous talking. It's only what's needed for that moment of the flight. So checklist, system issues, ATC communication, but we're not talking about our latest trip or the overnight or some awesome place to eat somewhere. It's only what's pertinent for this portion of the flight. And it's very strict. We don't have any distractions. It is much more stressful and dangerous taxiing around airplanes around on the ground than it is flying in the air. Again, we are much closer to other vehicles and planes right now than we are when we're flying around for the most part. But again, what I normally do when I give my PA to the flight attendants and the cabin to make sure that they have time is I'll use a little clock on the right hand side of my flight deck. There's a chronograph button. I can press the CHR button or I can press the clock button a little bit higher and to the right, and that just starts a timer for me. Once the time has elapsed that I had to give them, I know it's been done, so they have plenty of time to get themselves buckled in before we take off. Now, you might notice we're turning here at the Delta 3 intersection. This is not the end of the runway. Our performance for number for takeoff are based on departing from the Delta 3 intersection. Now, we could ask for full length if we needed it. We do not need it. It's a shorter taxi, saves time, but there's no safety issues because our numbers are based on taking off from here and not from the full length. So we have plenty of performance to accelerate to our decision speed, have an issue, and reject on the remaining runway surface. Now, if the runway was full of water or icy or snowy, maybe we would need full length to be able to stop on the remaining runway surface. But today, and most days, I'm sure leaving from Delta 3 on 9 right is a normal procedure. Now, as we get lined up, all checklists have been done. You see my clock is going over there on the right-hand side. I started it late, but the flight attendants would have plenty of time to get in their seats. The captain will steer onto the runway and then give me control of the airplane. So small little advance in time right here. So we've been cleared onto the runway, clear for takeoff, off from the runway 9 right at the Delta 3 intersection. Even though I have a tiller on my side of the aircraft, that's what we use to steer on the ground at my airline, only the captain steers on the plane. We go pretty across the center line before making a right-hand turn because we are a very long plane. The main landing gear do articulate. They have steering on them as well to help shorten the steering and reduce tire scrubbing because we do have so many tires back there. But he or she will line me up on the center line and then say your aircraft, and I will say my aircraft. At that point, I'm the pilot flying, and the captain will be the pilot monitoring. Now, remember, those big giant engines are mechanical devices controlled by computers. So we don't just add takeoff power right away. We do it very smooth and deliberate. We may want to make sure they spin up correctly and in tune. So I'm going to advance the thrust levers to about 1.05 EPR. That's my primary gauge for this kind of engine. Once there, then I press the toga button, and that accelerates them to the set takeoff power, which is, again, it's a reduced power takeoff. TL1 is a reduced power takeoff. Assumed temperature is also reduced power. So we have really reduced power to save fuel, save wear and tear, and again, reduce the chance of an engine failure, right? We're going on the runway. First call is 80 knots. And by this point, the thrust is locked in. You might have noticed the thrust changed, the EPR changed, and that's normal as the computer fine-tunes everything as it gets a sense of the outside air temperature and everything else. And the next call will be V1. That's an automated call by the computer of the airplane. Then the captain will manually call VR. At that point, I begin rotation. We have plenty of runway ahead to reject on this surface. The plane is quite heavy. Some people use 2 hands to get it out the runway. Up and away we go. Positive rate gear up. And now we're going towards DFNW. Beautiful day in Paris. Beautiful flight back. But don't worry, I'm not going to fly back here on the sim. It'll be a lot shorter. All right.
This is our routing back, and you can see we're kind of go pretty high north, over a little bit of Greenland, and then down over Canada into DFW. All the green spots are areas of turbulence warning areas. The yellow areas are actual predicted turbulence, so we're avoiding almost all of it until we get over Canada and then into the United States. Then here's the flight radar track of our flight. Again, we got the north side of the runway from Paris for some reason. We couldn't get the closer runway because that's how they do things. But somewhat long taxi over there. Again, we never stopped taxiing, so that was fine. Again, my leg launched off runway 9 right, up, make a sweeping left turn, and up and away we went, up over the ocean. Now, me being the flying pilot, I have the option of having the second brake or the third brake. Most pilots, when they're flying, will take the second brake. Some prefer to take the last brake right before landing if we're doing a 3-person crew. If we do a 4-person crew, then it's different. But it's a fairly standard flight, nothing special. Had my brake up front, and I made a decent landing into DFNW. And clearing customs, immigration, and DFW is very straightforward. Walked outside. I did see my bus waiting for me. So again, we have north buses and south buses. And the worst feeling in the world is when you're tired and you go outside and you get on the bus, you think it's the right bus, and then you're like, hey, the bus took a wrong turn, but it didn't take a wrong turn because you're on the wrong bus. My stop is the last stop on the south route, so I put my bags away, get a good seat, and relax. Out to my car, and now for the drive home. All right, driving the wrong way, not me, them. 4:30 in the car, and headed mostly home. Had to stop and get dinner for the family first, because the wife is traveling to, again, West Palm Beach, Florida, because someone stole a car and wants her to go testify in court that their DNA is on the steering wheel. So, yay. Not exhausted. I did find out from the whole crew that all of us had warm rooms last night, and that it wasn't just me. So, I was half wanting to go downstairs and ask for a new room last night because it was so warm. Like, even after I got to the hotel initially for my initial nap, I was warm. But I'm like, I can just open the window. It's fine. I don't want to move all my stuff. Even though I didn't sleep the best, I slept fine. The whole crew had warm rooms, so it is what it is. But we are going to be changing hotels in the month anyway. So maybe that's why we're changing hotels, because it's, it is an older property, and it's common with older properties that they have either all heat or all cool. So, departing Paris was the normal shouldn't say that. The normal extreme control, TSAT, TOBT, blah, 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 blah. And we got the north side instead of the south side. We thought we had a short taxi. We had a long taxi. It's fine. Normal climb out, left turn out of there. I say normal, it's my third time there. But easy climb out of there. FB went on break. We each had a little over 3 hours on the break on the way back. And again, the captain, both times I've flown with him, he's taking the last break. And again, it's our option for a 3-pilot crew. You pick what break you want. You can take any break, really. Most people take the middle break when they fly, but it's his option, and he wanted the last break. Well, I thought about it. I'm like, if I take the middle break, then I'll sleep easier when I get home anyway. So I wanted the last break. I wanted the middle break also. So I went on break just prior to Greenland, and went to the seat, slept for an hour, used the restroom, slept for an hour, used the restroom, and then slept for maybe 20 more minutes, and then I was up. Went up front, had my meal, chicken, better out of Europe than it is out of the United States, and I talked to the FB a lot. I talked to the captain a lot too, but I talked to the FB a lot, and just telling plane stories. He's former military. He's still in the reserves. He flies a KC-135, and he lives down in the Austin area, so he's driving home right now. Again, you might say driving home, Darren, but don't you have service from Dallas to Austin? We do, but many pilots have a guaranteed seat in their car versus a wait to commute home, like the captain's commuting home in an airplane and then seeing a jump seat. Most people think if it's a 3 to 4 hour drive, I'd rather drive than wait around and fly. So he's driving home today.
I had thought about picking up a trip if my wife didn't have to go testify, but the trial did start today, so she's going to go testify. I'm probably going to take the rest of the week off. Before we left, I did put a bid in for a Barcelona trip later in the month, and I did get awarded that. So I'm at 72 hours right now. The most I can do is 96. So even with 72, I can just pick up one more trip after spring break, and I have plenty of time to do it, and I'll be at 92 to 93 hours. And that's my goal every month is 91 hours, just to equal what a reserve captain would get on the Airbus. So at 92 hours, I'm not losing any money. But yeah, so I'm going to go home. Well, go get dinner for the kids.
I'm just telling him how horrible of a driver he is in French. Yeah.
You screwed up again. What are you doing? I almost got rear-ended. I don't know if you can see him behind me or not. On this feeder road, when they come off the toll lanes, they're supposed to yield to us, and he was right on my rear end. Didn't look for him because I don't have to. Love it. Anyways, I'll send it over to Darren to wrap it all up.
And thank you, Darren. I'm Darren. Great trip to Paris. One thing I forgot to mention in the video that I said I'd mention, but I forgot to mention was a Category 2 versus a Category 3. Why would we do a Category 2 landing if we can just do a Category 3 landing and call it done? Depends on what is working on the airplane that particular day. We are allowed to fly with certain things not operating on the airplane just so we can get you to where you want to go, right? Now, everything that's not working has to be approved by the FAA and the people that made the airplane. It's called a minimum equipment list. And then we have a thing also called a CDL, a configuration deviation list. Basically, if anything is missing off the airplane, if something flies off or is removed from the airplane on the outside or anywhere on the airplane, we have the CDL. MEL is something we have to function, like say if the auto brakes aren't working correctly, then we might not be able to do a Autoland, a Cat 3 landing. Or maybe if the auto throttles aren't working correctly, then we can still fly the airplane without auto throttles, but we can't necessarily do a Cat 3 approach. We have a list of stuff that has to be working for us to be able to do a Category 3 approach. Hope that makes sense. Again, I try to walk the line of technical and easy to understand in my videos, and sometimes it gets a little blurry. So as far as the pay for the trip, very good trip overall. I was paid $64.99.45 for my hourly wages. I was 20 hours and 18 minutes. My international pay, something my airline does for international legs, is $101.50. My per diem was 47 hours and 45 minutes. That was $193.12. I'm paid $4.07 per hour. And then my 401k, my airline puts an amount equal to 18% of my income into my 401k every single month. For this trip anyway, it was $1,169.90. My name is Darren. I am a dad. I'm an airline pilot. I am a husband of a scientist. I depend on you to just click subscribe. It costs you nothing. Guess what? Clicking like also costs you nothing. It's $0.99. And then dropping a comment to say, hey Darren, thanks for the content. Appreciate what you do. I'm never going to sell you anything. I'm never going to have any kind of sponsored video. I just tell it like it is. I do it because when I was younger, I had no one to contact and see what it was like to be an airline pilot. That's it. Have a great day, and as always, thank you for stopping by.